Hello, everyone. I'm Robert,
I'm Mandy.
and we're here today to share with you some of our insights and knowledge.
I'm going to talk to you a little now about stress. Stress is something that we're all too familiar with. The stress response is a normal physiological function designed to keep us safe in the world. The stress response, or the fight-flight response as it's also known, is a normal physiological function which keeps us safe in the world. There is a surge of stress hormone, a surge of energy, which enables us to act appropriately to keep us safe. This comes at a cost, of course, as energy is drawn away from other internal systems and processes of the body. The digestive system, the immune response, the cardiovascular system is all decreased, so our short-term energy is optimized, enabling us to respond accordingly. So the stress response is characterized by accelerated heart rate, overactivity of the mind, and survival becomes our key focus in that moment. The second stage of the stress cycle is when the stressors seem to be continuous and stress becomes chronic. So this becomes an unnatural response to situations that don't really warrant all of this energetic activity to keep us safe in the world. So of course, the symptoms associated with chronic stress might be a little more ongoing and a little more insidious. So these are some of those things which might be our tendency to get sick with that decrease in our immune system functionality, perhaps joint muscle pain, tension in the body, neck aches, backaches, headaches, allergies, hyperactivity, and even exhaustion are all symptoms of chronic stress. And when we're chronically stressed, we lose the ability to see the big picture. Every day seems to be a fight for survival. Of course, none of us want to feel like this. And so this leads us into the third stage of the stress cycle, which is really addiction. And addiction is simply unhealthy coping mechanisms which relieve the pain of ongoing stress. And we all reach for those things in our lives that we deem to be the opposite of chronic stress. We might reach for medications, we might reach for our vices, which might be smoking or drinking, or reaching for junk food or watching television or so much social media. It kind of numbs these feelings of stress temporarily. It's not a permanent fix, of course, so that leads us to reach for more of it, and this is where it becomes an addiction. So we're simply doing what we think we need to do to relieve the distressing or uncomfortable symptoms of chronic stress. Of course, this is not sustainable. And if we continue down this trajectory, then this leads us towards the fourth stage of the stress cycle, which is chronic illness. And this is really the dysfunction of the body's systems due to the impacts of long-term stress, and perhaps even some of the damage we might be causing ourselves through some of those addictive behaviors. There's only so long we can have an unhealthy diet. There's only so much alcohol we can drink. There's only so many cigarettes we can smoke before it becomes detrimental to our physical health. There are illnesses that have a stress component, including heart disease and stroke, cancer, respiratory conditions, digestive disorders, arthritis, Alzheimer's, and the list can go on. The mind and the emotions are essentially imbalanced, and there can be a tendency towards depression, anxiety, mental illness, pessimism, and even despair. The basic premise of yoga is that we're comprised of these 5 distinct aspects, being the body, the mind, the energetic, the innate intelligence or wisdom, and this center of inner peacefulness, calmness, and happiness. And when these 5 aspects of the self are in balance, then we experience well-being, peacefulness, focus. The system of yoga provides us with the tools to balance these 5 aspects of self. And this becomes particularly important in times when we've shifted from that internal state of balance, when we're experiencing stress in whatever stages of the stress cycle we might be within. So we restore balance and well-being through the practices of the 5 key areas of the yoga system. A little bit of the movement practices, some breathing, some relaxation, some meditation, and the mindfulness. The mindfulness being that awareness, that focus we bring to what is happening in the present moment. That awareness of where our mind is at in this moment. And if there are any disturbances to our peace of mind, that we're able to bring ourselves back to balance very quickly. We're able to activate what is called the relaxation response or the rest and digest response, which is the opposite response to the stress response. So this is what is appropriate and required in everyday life to maintain our health, to maintain our well-being, to maintain our peace of mind, to be able to activate relaxation, calmness, peacefulness at will. Yoga provides us with a clear methodology, a pathway out of this whole stress cycle and into a new cycle of being that we might like to call a peace cycle. You may be confronted with the same situation that previously caused you great stress or distress, perhaps a confrontation with a partner or your child, colleague, that previously you would have reacted to quite instinctively with anger or sadness or hurt or whatever it might be. So instead of that, in that very moment, you apply yogic mindfulness to notice that response rising up within you, and to, instead of doing what you usually do, to instead draw on the practices of yoga. So simply taking a deep breath in that moment, reassuring yourself that you're okay, stabilizing the breathing, reducing the physiological effects of the stress response, and then coming back to that person or situation with a new perspective, one of perhaps calmness. Once you've brought this steadiness to the mind, to the emotions, you come back with some steadiness, with some kindness, with some compassion, because after all, they experience what you're experiencing too. They also are caught somewhere in this whole cycle of stress. In order for yoga to work, we need to create a container or a structure within our daily life so we're able to successfully create the time and the space to integrate the 5 key areas of yoga into our daily life. So establishing a routine, a structure to our days is fundamentally important. Robert is going to talk to you a little bit now about the importance of structure